I need a nuclear reaction to generate the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity.
1.21 gigawatts! 1.21 gigawatts!
So I'm all set here. Gonna solder this battery with some nickel bars that I got here. Ideally, you're supposed to spot weld these. There is a spot welder I could find on eBay for about, I don't know, $160. Then I have to buy the attachment, which makes it easier to do it on the battery rather than having to lift the battery up to the contacts, and that's another $60. $200 for something that I do once a year. So now I'm gonna risk it. I'm going to solder. Just try to keep the solder as quick as possible. Not too much coming out of here. Let's see if I can do this quickly. Already failing. So here we are, and this is the battery. Made a few mistakes with the shrink wrap, and I'm probably gonna do it again. But what I did was I shrink wrapped this thing, and then I cut it out, and then I tried to shrink it more, and it actually expanded. But overall, seems pretty cool, and always tells me the voltage, but of course I don't want that always on, so I added a little tiny push button switch here. So just charged it, and it apparently needed about 3.5 amps added to it. So I thought it was mostly charged, but it turns out it's probably about 60% or so. There you have it, the homemade DIY lithium iron phosphate battery for my QRP rigs, and right now I'm using it with my MCHF clone. I'm gonna hook up the little battery or the power meter right now and see how much draw there is. It says 13.3 volts on the LED. According to the power meter, 13.27, and I will turn it on and see how much draw we get. So on receive, we're taking about 0.35 amps or 4.6 watts. And then if I were to send, Let's see what the meter says while I'm sending QRL. So it's about 1 amp that it consumes on full power, which is right now on 40 is about 9 watts. Oops. I'm sending AD6DO. I should be sending AD6DM. I don't think I'm being heard right now, but 13.22 volts goes up to about 1.5 amps. Oops. It's about 1.35 amps. This is a 5.8 amp hour battery, so that means that I will get what? Maybe 4 hours to depletion. Maybe less. It's a nice little setup, I think. The batteries, they cost me 60 bucks for 20 of them, and I used 8 of them for this build. Other parts, little, dollars here and there, so I had to get the LED, the switch, the little holders for the cells, these nickel things. And I gotta tell you, soldering is really not recommended. The batteries don't like lead. Well, for one, I was risking it because of the heat that I was applying to the batteries. That's very not good, but I had no choice because I don't really have a spot welder. But the lead would adhere to the nickel just fine, but it wouldn't adhere to the battery, so I had to really work for every single connection. And that's why if you see the pictures, it's some really ugly soldering. I am totally not proud of that soldering. But it's the best I could do, given that the cells wouldn't take the solder at all. And pretty pleased overall. So, oh yeah, I was talking about cost. Sorry. Cost. So 8 cells out of the $60 for cells, and I still have another 12 to work with. And all this stuff, even the shrink wrap, that cost like, I think it was $12.99 for a big old roll of it. I had to measure out the dimensions and then double that and add a little bit of room, and then that's the size of the shrink wrap that I bought on Amazon. And then of course everything else, the wire, the power poles, all in all, still cheaper. I would say the cost of just this, considering all the bulk that I had to buy of supplies, if I just take the unit cost of this thing, I would price it at around maybe $50 or $60. Now, a 3 amp hour battery from Bioenno I think is $50, and a 6 amp hour battery I think is $80. I have 12 more cells that I can make into one of these, and I know that if I had 12 cells in this configuration, it'd be about 9 amp hours. So a 9 amp hour battery at Bioenno, if I remember right, is about $100. So overall cost savings in this one. This isn't like my battery box that was ridiculous, but still it's really cool just putting it together and learning all the different parts of battery technology. So there you have it. It's the AD60M lithium iron phosphate battery, 5.8 amp hours, 12.8 volts, and has its own little voltmeter and a switch, and probably last me about half a day in the field. That's not considering if I added my solar panel, which I almost certainly would. So pretty good build, and I definitely learned a lot from this one. Just got a lot of good solder practice as well. So it was a fun build. Again, with all battery building, you know, don't copy me, don't imitate my style here. Do your research. I recommend getting a spot welder if you do want to build one of these, because soldering is both not good for the battery, and it's also very, very difficult. Surprised the battery's doing well. Did a full charge of the battery after I put it all together and shrink wrapped it, and what I noticed was that the smart charger did not sense any reduction in the intake of current, which I guess that's what it uses to figure out if it should start, you know, trickle or float charging instead of giving it all the amps. And at a certain point the BMS just said, okay, enough, and it just broke the connection. So the smart charger was like, what? And it had a little warning there, just said connection break, which was obviously the BMS discontinuing the charge. So that's some odd behavior, but overall, you know, it was interesting to see how this battery. I lost my train of thought. Anyway, thank you again for watching. This is AD60M here in Stockton on a Saturday. What is it? It's May the 4th, Star Wars Day. It's May the 4th, 2019, and put together this battery, so now I have something to take with me that's a little bit less crazy than this giant battery box that I have. Let me so I don't have to always carry around this guy, right? This gigantic box. Instead, just this little one. Well, let me see if I can bring it in without so there you go. The QRP battery, 5.8 amp hours. All right. Thanks for watching again, and hopefully more to come soon. Thanks a lot, and 7-3.